Looks like Maryam is joining us. And while we're waiting for Maryam to join us, firstly, welcome everyone. Hey, Maryam.
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Um,
Good.
I just want to start off with a couple of announcements. Firstly, I'm super excited and honored to be hosting this 100th live Instagram Live for the Independent Lodging Congress. I'm just really proud of being a part of such an innovative organization who's really leading the way through this new normal. And I think back in April was our first IG Live, and really just leading the way with experience shares, inspiration, and just all around leadership within our industry. So I'm just really super proud of that. And it's an important milestone. This is the 100th on Maryam, so that's super cool. I'm glad to
Yes,
be here with you.
I'm thrilled.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah, it's super great. Well, thank you everyone at ILC. Also, just some other housekeeping. Stay tuned on Monday. Yoav Jerry, president of Selena, which is a super innovative company, is going to be joining us on Monday as well. Please consider donating to ILC. We rely heavily on our live events as our main source of revenue. So we'd appreciate any donation to keep us going through this challenging time. You can donate on our website at ilcongress.com, ilcongress.com. And all of our IG Live sessions are posted to our feed and IGTV. If you've missed any, you can also just log on and download them and watch them. So it's all there available for you to review and be inspired. Finally, if you have any questions for Maryam during this interview, please, I'll do my best to watch the little feed of questions come up, but please put them in the comment section and we'll be sure to get you involved during the conversation. So
Absolutely.
we'll get into introductions. I'm Dan Ryan on the advisory board of the Independent Lodging Congress, founder of a company called Blue Canary, which is helping hotels make better decisions about safety. And we're here with Maryam Ahmed, who is ILC's talented and longtime friend, who worked as the director of PR at the Culinary Institute of America, and she's now hung up her own shingle and is leading the way, planning and curating virtual events. Maryam, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into it.
Of course. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thank you for that introduction. I am Maryam, and a little bit about me. I've been an experience enthusiast pretty much my whole life. I've been the one coordinating everything, pulling everyone together, finalizing all the details, and making people happy and excited. So I am a graduate of the hotel school at Cornell University. I studied there for 4 years and really focused on food and beverage while I was there, but of course within that holistic approach of hotel management. And from the hotel school, I spent some time in fine dining and distribution, among a lot of other things. Maybe they'll come up throughout the talk today, but it led me to the Culinary Institute of America, where I was the director of public programs. So all of our consumer-facing efforts here in California, basically my job was to distill down this amazing and credible and sometimes intimidating brand, the Culinary Institute of America, for the consumer, as well as to take very seriously our place in thought leadership when it comes to consumer behavior. And I was there for 5 years. In that much time I started with a small team of about 3. And after 5 years, I had a team of 30. And we were just managing 2 properties as well as overseeing the national branding and how we communicated out to the consumer and creating any kind of experience you can imagine. But of course, all of those experiences were in person. And yeah, so everyone knows there's no surprise to anybody here that that's quite challenging now. And, you know, after 5 years with the Culinary Institute, an amazing place to learn and to grow my network, now I am consulting full-time with my company, Maryam and Company, and what we focus on is helping brands connect to and grow their audience through creative programming and curated experiences. So there's a lot more to it than that, but that's the high level summary of my introduction.
Well, Maryam, thank you for sharing. And I think what we'll do is, because I'd love to dig into that and see what we can all learn from and be inspired, and any takeaways that all of us can have. So, like I said, ILC was an early adopter to this IG Live session for our industry, leading the way. Very proud of that. In April, there's been so much creativity and a lot of like throwing things up on the wall and seeing what works. So what do you say to a prospective client or someone who's interested or who might be a little frustrated thinking, oh, I've missed the boat on virtual events? Like, what do you tell them, and how do you measure success with a virtual event?
Yeah, those are really great questions. I hope everybody wants the answer to them. Well, the first thing is it's not too late to innovate. You know, I think a lot of people are feeling stuck, or like you said, they missed the boat. But the truth is there are a lot of people out there still performing tests and trying things. The thing is if the trying ends up in a failure, at least they've collected that data and they have tried, and now they know how to do something differently in the future. And so I would just encourage an initial client for sure I want to know where they're at, what they have tried. And if they haven't tried anything, we start there. How are we going to communicate your brand virtually? How does your brand look and feel in home? And, you know, that is a little bit uncomfortable for people who haven't gotten started yet, but it ends up being a really rich experience. And also branding work or brand work that you can kind of take into the hospitality of the physical business and within the team. So there's value there, but don't be afraid to try. That's just my number one piece of advice right now. A lot of people are trying without necessarily knowing if it's going to work. So
Great.
I will answer your measures of success. But the other thing I wanted to say is that the people are so hung up on also this idea of screen fatigue. But, you know, you and I talked about this a little bit. Netflix had 10 million people sign up between April and June. And I know IG Live isn't Netflix, but it's an indication that people are still ready to absorb information or experience from a screen. So keep that in mind. Measures of success that we use through Maryam and Company are focused on three things: revenue, retention, and reputation. And within those, you know, we're focusing on specific metrics. But when we're planning a virtual experience, honestly, when we're creating the programs we're creating, even when they're in person, those are the metrics we're looking at, because it is risk-taking in a way to figure out the best way to connect with your brand.
Great. And then so to get into actual experiences, from all of the people who are reaching out to you, like, oh, I want to do a virtual event. Could you kind of, there's so many different types of individuals and companies who are reaching out to you, as you were saying, but if you were to kind of go after your biggest bucket right now, as far as the people who are coming up to you, what type of person or company is it, and how do you kick it off with them?
So a lot of my work is focused on wineries. So we're talking about a connection with a product, but of course also a place. And that place is hospitality and very specific story. So I'm helping wineries, honestly, large and small, as well as some portfolios, create programs that are specific to their brand, but using logistics that we know work. You know, we've become Zoom experts. We've shopped every single platform that's out there. And I think there's some considerations that people need to understand when you're exploring offering virtual events, especially if you're protecting a really high-end brand that you've built over many, many years. You do need to be careful about how you're going to construct the event and how it feels to people. So, you know, the considerations for moving forward with a virtual event are just, what are you willing to invest? Specifically around tech. You know, IG Live is free, but it can only get you so far. And it's not as measurable as some of the other platforms out there as far as engagement and experience, honestly. Also, go ahead.
Oh, no, you keep going. I'll save my question.
Also scaling. So, you know, Virtual experiences, there's a lot more logistics. You'd think that in-person events are more logistical, but I think people are finding very quickly how much more it takes to put on a virtual event well than an in-person event. And so you got to be mindful of that when you're creating a program. Are you going to be able to repeat it? Are you going to be able to do this easily? And that kind of leads to the bandwidth and resources people have, right? Are we going to be able to deliver the communication necessary for this event or experience to feel more in person and more hospitable? Are we also, do we have the people that we need? You know, do we have the people with the savvy? And does that mean we need to bring someone from the outside in, or is there someone inside that we can take a look at their experience and say, okay, great, we've got this internally. Like, let's spin them to this while they're not necessarily working their in-person job.
So with this winery or hospitality company who says, hey, we want to go and engage with our clients in a different way, between the investing in and the innovation, the investing in the innovation and technology that they have, the scale that they want to achieve, and then just looking at their overall resources, what do you think which one should they focus on the most? Or is it you got to focus on all three?
I mean, you have to consider all three. I will say for tech, there are workarounds. There are plenty of people with a specific audience that are not averse to clicking a Zoom link and just jumping in a Zoom. You know, people are becoming more and more comfortable with that. So you could leverage that instead of having to worry about investing in a more expensive platform, right? But I think for me, where I've seen the most challenges arise is specifically around the type of communication, the frequency, and the tracking of the communication that has to go out for these events. I can give an example now, if you would like, of one specific virtual event that we do. So I have a few examples that I will try to get to all of them, but one is actually one that we run as Maryam and Company. We do a series called Dinner with Mayor, and it was launched in May, and it was really out of this need for connection, specifically hosting people. And what happened was, I thought everyone was going to say, Maryam, no thank you, miss you, but I don't want to get on another Zoom call. And what happened was we ended up having to host 3 within 3 weeks because we got so many signups, because people were craving connectivity. And what we realized very quickly was, okay, we have this concept. In order to operationalize it, we have to communicate and over communicate. So guests of Dinner with Mayor get an initial announcement. We run the signups and manage all of that. There is a ticket, and we also manage multiple emails the week leading up to, including a curated grocery list and partners and potential wineries and all of that. So it takes a lot of coordination. But once we did 3, you know, we've done them every month. We've been able to create warmth and welcome. We've actually seen so much connection. We've had repeat guests. We always incorporate surprises. And the other thing is it's cause aligned. So as you're thinking about, you know, your virtual programming, especially right now, how can you have a greater impact than just the impact your brand will receive from your programming? Because that's definitely resonated with people. So that's one example, and we've been able to raise funds and absolutely cover costs, but what it has done, specific to our measurements of success, is it's really positioned us in the market for a virtual experience.
So one of the things that I've really enjoyed hearing you say so much, and also read, is this idea of connection. And to me, that's like what hospitality is all about. And what I'm seeing with all of our clients, like, we all have to innovate because that traditional connection is not there, right? So in this constantly, it's like every day it's a new thing. So, and tomorrow we don't know what's going to be there. What's the new thing going to be? So tell us, like, how do you innovate on connection? How do you supplant the traditional form of hospitality and hosting?
I mean, I think people are still, frankly, figuring that part out. But what what we're seeing a lot of success around is the brands that are finding ways to create the tenets of hospitality through their virtual experiences. You know, like, does it check the boxes of warm, welcoming, wow factor in the delivery? And I think specifically, like, there's no substitution for in person, but there is still this high level feeling of hospitality when you are in direct communication or curated communication with the people you're engaging. You know, there are probably brands listening or that will watch this later that know who their top customers are. They know who the people are that support their brand, live their brand. How are they engaging them right now and having them become evangelists for the brand through something as simple as an experience that those folks might want to have, you know, welcoming them into the hotel kitchen or giving them a tour of maybe something exciting going on the property. You know, I had a friend very recently tell me that she's been doing these virtual tastings for months now, and the winemaker happened to walk in while she was doing the tasting and chatted with, you know, 25 people on screen, and everyone was asking all these questions about the vineyard, and the winemaker said, you know what, we'll go out to the vineyard. And he just picked up the computer and they went out to the vineyard. And wow. She said that they saw the highest spike in sales in virtual tastings because of that tasting, because it was authentic, and he was immediately connecting everybody with the property, with the place, you know. So I don't think it has to be as hard as people think it is right now.
Yeah, and that you said authentic, and I'm just thinking it's so hard to naturally be authentic when we're doing this. So, and then but that was a wow. Can you share any other big wows that you've had?
I mean, the other one I will say that we worked on, we have a client called For the Culture Market right now, and it was an in-person event for 4 years. And our biggest charge as consultants is how do we make this amazing event feel the way it did in person? While we really rolled up our sleeves, got to know the community a lot. But one of the things we recently did was we used IG Live. We asked an influencer in the wine industry to participate and someone from For the Culture to participate. And what we wanted to do was highlight For the Culture and the magic behind it. This is a market focused on all Black women-owned businesses, originally based in Oakland, but because of the virtual nature of it, it's national. And the influencer is an advocate for Black wine professionals. Her name's Julia Coney. She also loves accessories and is known for her sort of self-care, treat yourself mentality. And so I could have asked her, could you get on and drink some wine and just talk about the culture market, you know, for us? But we said that would be great, and I'm sure it would have some impact, but how can we make it different? And so what we did was we asked her if she'd be willing to pair bubbles, champagne, and other sparkling wines to multiple artisan handmade jewelry, basically earrings. So basically, how are we comparing wine or pairing wine with art and the artisan craft? And we got a 20% increase in ticket sales overnight. We drove a lot of following, newsletter signups, and vendors benefited and continue to benefit because now that video is evergreen. And it was a real connection moment. The chat was crazy. Everyone was commenting. Everyone was so excited. And so I think, yes, there's a definite place for influencer marketing in the virtual world. But if you can just bridge that extra little gap to create connection that's a little bit out of the box, again, that's like authentic delivery, you know? So I think there are plenty of brands here today and that might hear this later that have that little nugget that makes them that they can translate into the virtual connection world for sure.
Great. And then, so aside from like always talk, like I would say connection is, I've heard you say that a lot and it's really important. It's important to me too, but I also hear you say data, and I know that you touched upon it earlier, but now just hearing a 20% increase in ticket sales and increased engagement. So going back to the measures of success and data, so connection and data, like what are some of your favorite data points, and how, can you share any of those real life examples with us?
Definitely. I mean, there are more than probably what we could cover. Of course, revenue is a data point. Whether you were expecting revenue or not, the success story around For the Culture is they weren't expecting revenue from ticket, but we designed a program that was worthy of a ticket price, and therefore now they have this extra bucket of revenue. So we checked our box for a success measure right out of the gate. Money is money. And at the end of the day, we all need to make up for lost time, right? So when we're moving on to the other measure, specifically retention, when we're working with wineries have club members. Hotels have repeat guests. It's very similar that you need to retain those loyal customers. And when we're measuring that, what we're really thinking about is, the lifetime of a customer. How has this membership looked over the last year by comparison to what we've offered them? Have there been referrals because of the programs that we've created? Have there been positive reviews for the programs we've created? And these are all things we measure for clients as consultants, because at the end of the day, I could say connection 5,000 times in a meeting, but I want to prove my worth to the organization. And so we measure all of this for the clients. And then I think for reputation, which is truly the hardest one to manage, right? The hardest one to measure. It's a lot of focus on brand positioning. And again, that's where are we growing our following? Is our newsletter expanding? Is there chatter happening? And that takes a lot of community engagement, especially for the bigger brands that already see a lot of that. It takes some real time to collect that data, but it's really useful data, especially when you're going to someone that has to approve an expense for this creation of a virtual experience. Knowing you're going to be able to show the value is really, really important.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Reputation is the hardest to measure. Thank you for sharing that. It's something to think about. Now, if there's all this talk of vaccines and kind of getting back to normal, who knows when, like, I don't know when, but there's this big push to virtual. How do you think this big push to virtual is going to inform and help evolve when things go back to the way they were, and will they go back to the way they were? I'd really love to hear your thoughts on that, and how can you take what we've learned in the virtual world to make the new normal even better?
Yeah, well, we just talked about how data is important. So like the number one thing I want to say is don't waste any of the information you're collecting right now. Be very cognizant of how people are finding you. And just even if it is a small spreadsheet somewhere that you keep, it's going to come in handy, because our post-COVID world is going to be the pre-COVID world. So I think, and speaking about events, there's a very high expectation in the events world right now that there will have hybrid events for a long time coming. And that's really tied to apprehension of the global travel sector. People just are nervous still, and they may be nervous for years to come. So having the ability to give people the participation option virtually, whether it's all access or not, it's smart, because again, that's another avenue of sales that you could have at the end of the day. So I would consider, how are you going to hybridize your both previously existing in-person events and your currently existing virtual events? For like dinner with Mayor, for example, it works virtually because I can bring anyone from anywhere around the world to the dinner table. I don't necessarily think I will put that into practice in person, but I might take everything I've learned from it to create an in-person service. So that's like one way.
So let's say I give you a magic wand right now, and I really loved how you said, like, thinking about so I give you a magic wand. How are you going to hybridize your future events in person with what you've learned now? Get like in the best possible outcome.
Well, I think, the best possible outcome is you will be mostly in person, right? You will still see your ticket sales, your high ticket sales driven by in-person attendance. I think where people could capitalize, and I'm kind of scaling up on events, is there's probably even opportunity for in-person versus virtual sponsorship. Carving out additional opportunities for brands, products, and people to participate virtually that couldn't otherwise be there in person, that can also really end up being a revenue driver for hybrid events in the future. And then I would say for in-person, just don't take, yes, people want to get back together. People want to go to weddings. People want to celebrate and hug and all of those things. But just don't take for granted how much hospitality has changed because of this virus, and make sure you're building that into your operating procedures for your rollouts in 2021 and in 2022. And hopefully that's all, but at least for the next couple of years.
Great. And then another word I heard you talk about was craving. There's a lot of this craving, whether it's connection or events or data or experience. So what is the biggest crave that your clients are having?
Well, the clients are craving their guests, honestly. I mean, the guests are craving something new, something that they haven't seen on screen yet. And, I would also say our clients are seeing a lot of success in the corporate sector that didn't exist before this, because there are a lot of people in tech not in the office right now that need something to do. And they are not screen averse. They're conditioned to be in front of the screen. So there's a lot of opportunity in that lane for people, for sure, right now. So I think that there is a lot of craving for connectivity, but also for like brain movement, sparking something new, perspective challenging, all of that.
Great. Well, I know we're kind of coming to the end here, so I have one question,
Okay.
and then I want to hit those announcements again, just so everyone can hear it. But so we're coming up on my favorite holiday of the year, Thanksgiving. How are you spending your Thanksgiving, and what are you most grateful for this Thanksgiving?
Wow, what a curveball! I wasn't expecting. I'm spending Thanksgiving with 3 of my very dear friends that I have spent pretty much any other holiday or time off with since March. We've even brewed beer together over the quarantine time that we've had together. And so that'll be very nice. It's sort of this year's family. And I am most grateful for I'm really most grateful for my health and the health of my family. And for the support that we've received as Maryam and Company. If I get one personal, one professional, those are my two gratitudes today.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing. Maryam, it's been wonderful to get to know you over these past couple days. And what's the best way for anyone out there listening to you to get in touch with you?
Sure. So we have on Instagram, we're Maryam and Company, all spelled out. And my website is maryamahmed.co. And I can post those in the chat while you are making your final announcements, Dan. And I respond directly to email inquiries that come in from the website. So if you're looking to get in touch with me specifically, I will be there. And I also have our operations manager, Janae, who is amazing, who is available to chat with people as well. So it's easy.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for this wonderful 30 minutes. And again, I'll speak for you, but also for me, I'm just really proud of ILC leading us through this new normal. And this is our 100th Instagram Live interview. So lots of great content that is inspiring, is educational, and it's all about helping us all connect. To steal a word from you, Maryam, we all need to think about new ways to innovate and connect. And Maryam, thank you so much for sharing your ideas and views on how you're doing it now and what you think the future will be. So
my pleasure. Thank you
very, very much. And thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
Hey, good.